1, 2, 3, 4. I got to take this home this weekend, and I am kind of blown away by it. And being a Strat guy my whole life, I gotta say that I kind of think they came on to something new, and they improved things in little bitty spots instead of trying to make, you know, kind of big splashes and stuff. I think what'd you guys think of the actual contour on the back of the guitar? I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, it still feels like home.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was never really anything I thought that I like missed until I played one, and I was like, oh man, this is actually super nice.
Right.
I've never really played Jazzmasters really at all my entire life. I played lots of Telecasters, but I had a chance to play this one over the weekend. I played a wedding with it, and it felt a lot more comfortable and at home than I thought I would have, you know? And it's the same scale length as a Tele, right? 25 and a half. Right. So. Something I actually really love that I never really got into before was using a whammy bar. I've owned Strats my whole life, but I never put a whammy bar on them. I don't know why.
Really? That was amazing, clean.
Yeah.
How'd you guys like the Tele?
Yeah, Tele's great. Does all the traditional Tele stuff you'd expect. You know, your chicken. But the S1 and this one in the middle position puts the two pickups in series, so you get this real thick, almost humbucker-y sound. So without it, it's, you know. And then with it, it just really fattens it up.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah. That's awesome. And the color on that guitar is pretty sweet.
Texas T.
Yeah.
It's got this really interesting fade where it turns from like black into gold. And the anodized aluminum pickguard is super classy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something about just like all of these, like the finishes are just incredible.
They are.
Yeah, all the new colors are pretty sick. Is that the one's called what? Cobra Blue? Something like that?
Cobra Blue.
It's like a Mustang.
It is.
Oh yeah, it's got that Shelby. Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
I notice on the bass, is there stacked for each pickup, or?
What's actually on here is a 3-band active EQ, so you've got your bass, mid, treble, and the bottom on this dual concentric is just the tone when you're in passive mode.
So you can switch in and out.
Yeah, so you can
cool.
totally toggle between, I'm in active right now, and then passive.
Whoa.
So it really adds a lot to it. The other thing that really just drew me to this is I'm normally a jazz bass guy, and the more D-shaped necks always felt like too big for my sausage fingers.
Yeah.
And so jazz bass just always spoke to me, but this feels like a slim tapered jazz bass neck, even though it's not. And the rounded fret edges feel really comfortable, and being able to access the P-bass sound but still have jazz bass just by rolling back to the bridge pickup is pretty cool.
So is it volume and then a blend, or is it?
Yeah, so it's volume, blend, and then the dual concentric for bass and mid, and then passive tone and treble.
Nice. And it looks great.
Yeah, yeah. Again, just when the light hits this, like from far away, you're like, oh, that's just a normal white, but you see it in the light, and it's like, no, there's some serious
That's the way
metallic
this is.
in
Lots of glitter in there.
there. Yeah.
Love it. take the button out so we can kind of hear the difference on the humbucker. You can definitely hear a difference when that button's
That
out,
rocks.
You know, yeah. Let me do the button out with a little bit of gain on it so we can hear, because this guitar does. So it definitely can, you know, obviously depending on what kind of pedals or whatever you're using with it, it can rock very well.
Sounds good.
I used it at home through high gain settings, through low gain stuff, and it was great all the way around and quiet.
Yeah, sounds good.
Did you use a lot of gain, or what kind of gig did you play this weekend when you did the wedding?
It was more of an R&B thing.
Was it?
So
Okay.
less gain. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That thing sounds great. I mean, that thing's it's barky, but
Yeah.
it's not like a Tele. It's a whole different thing.
Yeah. The Jazzmaster's loaded with their Gen 5 noiseless pickups. So it's one better than the previous, which was Generation 4, which was one better than Generation 3. They just keep on getting better,
makes sense.
folks. And yeah, totally noiseless, overwound Jazzmaster pickups, so they're a little bit hotter, a little bit fatter than a typical single coil, which is cool for me, being primarily a Tele player. It's familiar territory with the two pickups, but it's just a little bit more meat, a little bit gooier,
Yeah, that thing,
like you said, gooey.
that thing is hot.
It's a little bit more slobbery, you know? So the switching is pretty simple. With this switch down, this is your phase switch. We'll talk about that in a minute. With this down, you've got your traditional three-way switch and a fancy S1 button too. But with your switch in the back position here, we're on the bridge position. So this is just the regular bridge pickup by itself.
That thing's
It's meaty.
got some meat. Yep.
Yep. Here's your middle position. Both pickups together. And then your neck pickup. So the S1 switch, when you're in the middle position here, it takes the pickups and puts them together in series, like a real wide range humbucker. So you've got, this is just without the S1 switch, and then with it added.
Wow.
Nice.
It's a huge difference.
There's a lot more output, yeah. So to the phase switch, so when you flip this up, you've got now both pickups out of phase. Everything else still works on the guitar as it should, and then you've got these volume controls here. And the volume controls allow you to, as opposed to just having one master volume for both, you can control each one individually. So when you're in the middle position, especially, if you back off a little bit of one or the other volume, you'll notice like the mid-range shift a little bit, so you can get some, for a studio application, it'd be great.
But all the way up, it's
all the way
out
up,
of phase.
it's just out of phase.
Nice.
So here, here's with it down, middle pickup without the S1. And then in the middle position here, that's both volumes all the way up. Listen to the, if I just roll off a little bit of the bridge pickup, listen to what happens that mid-range.
Wow.
Yeah, and then a little bit of the neck pickup here. It's real quacky.
Oh,
A
that'd
little goes a long
be
way.
versatile in
Yeah.
the studio.
Yeah.
Having the one out of phase and when you're rolling the volume off, it's awesome how that relationship just changes and like, gives it a whole new character.
I like it. I like it a lot. Them are neat. Yeah. Also, I didn't talk about the color, which is I think mocha, Mystic Mocha. Is that what it is? What is
Mocha
the color?
Burst.
Mocha
Mocha
Burst. It looks like somebody just poured root beer all over it. And it kind of looks like it might be sticky, but it's not.
It is cool.
Yeah,
the center is like
slick,
an
though.
Aztec gold or something.
Yeah, Shoreline, Aztec,
Shoreline,
something like
is
that,
it?
and then
Yeah.
it's a root beer on the outside,
And metallic.
and very metallic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's sharp.
they're all metallic finishes.
They
I'm
are.
pretty sure, except for
Yeah.
they got the Ultra Burst is more of a traditional like 3-tone. There's no metallic in that, but
Okay.
which I guess that's kind of a nice thing too. That these are like high performance guitars, but you can get more of a traditional looking one with like the traditional 3-tone burst.
Yeah.
If you wanted to go that route.
Yeah, middle position, get that almost like acoustic tone with the two pickups blended together. Just really bright and clean. Then, middle with the S1, puts the two pickups in series. You get an almost kind of real thick humbucker sound that's just rock and roll straight up. And bridge pickup, get that telly twang.
Definitely has the brightness back there, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
That's another thing that was crazy that I noticed. I know it's not that, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it is funny to, when you tap this one, to not have that angle, how bright the versus having that little bit of angle where the low strings aren't quite as bright. It's
It is
weird
pretty
to
surprising.
It's weird to play a Strat with a straight single coil rear pickup. It really is. Because if you look at the distance on a Telly, it's quite a bit different than back here, And I thought it was kind of cool. It's sort of an added feature that you don't get on a regular one.
Just like having that bridge there a little bit, like adds some extra body that you don't normally have, which is cool. But if you need to find home with either a P bass or a jazz bass, you can. Roll it back to the jazz bass pickup. The other thing that really I liked that they changed was cutting out some of the heel, making that easier to access up top.
I think they all have that, don't they?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's super cool.
Super cool feature.
I don't get up there as a bassist that much, but when I do, it's nice to have it.
When you do, the spotlight's on, so it's nice to have a little extra comfort
Exactly.
up there.
Yeah.
The spotlight's on.
That's right. I really enjoy this bass. Spent rehearsal with it last week with my band, and they all told me I needed to buy one. So.
Yeah, sure.
I think, the bottom line is every one of them, all the improvements are completely player friendly, and they're not spec based. They're amazing, like wow, I barely even noticed this, and I love it. You know,
Right.
I love the rolled fingerboard edge, but nobody would. Alls I would say if you handed it to me is, man, this is comfortable. I wouldn't say, oh, it's got, you know, it's not some radical thing. It's just, wow, that makes perfect sense. This makes perfect sense. The balancing of the humbucker to the single makes amazing sense. I would have never realized how useful it was until I did it, and I think it's a home run on all accounts. I can't think of, there's nothing anybody's brought to light that seems like, wow, I wish they'd have done this. They sort of did all of it.
I wish they would have given me one.
Well, I think we all wish that.
That would
right?
be cool, yeah. I just finished reading a book about Leo Fender and kind of the beginning of Fender, and whenever, I've been in the industry for quite some time, not as long as you have, but you can attest, whenever Fender comes out with a new guitar, you're kind of in the back of your head, you're like, oh, another Strat or another Tele, like, what could you possibly change? But they're all little subtle things that, like you were mentioning, they're little subtle things that you don't notice, but you do, it just feels good. Everything always feels better. And it's incredible to me how, in the grand scheme of things, how little the guitars have actually changed since Leo started, because he just kind of,
he was a
he just kind of
visionary.
did it right, yeah. And with the Ultra line, they kind of went back to the old method of developing guitars, and they made these changes and then gave them to professional musicians to go out and use, and they all got feedback, and it was through that like trial and error process that they landed on this. And that's what Leo used to do. And I think that's pretty cool, the history there, and kind of, you were mentioning the carve on the back of it, especially on the Strat. It's cool. The Strat was made to kind of be sexy looking, in that it kind of just goes along with that. It just kind of extends that, you know.
That's right.
So I don't know. I think they did a good job.
Yeah, even to the point of like Leo used to partner with a local auto painting facility and partnering with those places again to find the new finishes.
Yeah.
And that's super cool.
Yeah, I think you can get a new Chevy Silverado in this color.
If they give you that guitar, you'll have to go buy one. It sounds like a Strat in every single
those
position.
Tone Master amps too are unreal.
It's a great amplifier.
I used one at a gig the other day, and if you told me it had tubes in it, I would have totally believed you.
Yeah, except you weren't worried about it failing.
That, and it was easier to carry. I could
weigh
load
half
out
as
in
much,
one,
and you'd have that in the
load.
back of your mind. You're not worried about it. It's an amazing amp. And I'm using a little bit of a gain pedal on occasion so that I can kind of show. You know, so the gain that you're hearing is coming from a full tone, full drive, and not from the twin.
Coming from traditionally playing a Telecaster to a Jazzmaster, I didn't think that I would gravitate towards this, and when I played it for the first time, as I've already mentioned, the pickup combination felt familiar, but it still inspired me to play a little bit differently, because you can get stuck in a rut. You know, if you play the same guitar every single day, sometimes it can, you know, it's not a bad thing necessarily, but a good way to get out of a rut is just play something different. And this, to me, feels drastically different than a Tele, but familiar at the same time.
Yeah, you can still find tones that you're used to from your Tele.
Yeah.
Sure. It's always you have a bass line, and for me, you know, it's the Strat thing, but every Strat I try to approach differently, and they all bring something different out, even going from a Strat to a different Strat. And that's, I think, what allowed me to kind of embrace the subtle changes, made a bunch of subtle changes, made this an entirely new Strat.
Right.
Which is amazing. You know, it's hard to reinvent the wheel. And Fender knows how to make Strats. They always have. And that's why I'm always interested when they say they have something new, because they really, there's a whole bunch of companies that, you know, have competitors to this, but there still is only one Fender Stratocaster, and there always will be. So when they introduce something new, I always listen, and I think this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Right.
It was cool for me to come from the other direction, where the Jazzmaster's kind of been my number one for years. I love them. They're so weird, and they have, they've got some quirks that make them really interesting. The, Jazzmaster pickups don't really sound like anything else that's out there. So for me to go to a Tele, when I see, Strats and Teles, have always kind of been the normal guitar for me. Kind of like, oh no, I'm the Jazzmaster guy.
Yeah.
Strat and Tele. It's cool for me to, experience, something so versatile. Like, it doesn't sound like a Jazzmaster, but in my hands, it's got just as much versatility and charm. It's really cool.
Same thing with me being a jazz bass guy. That always felt like home, but also is just comfortable to me. And so picking this up and having it still feel comfortable, and then having the added versatility of bringing in a P bass when I need it is just super cool, and inspired me to just like find more riffs and
More riffs.
more riffs.
Well, that's the key, you know, anything to inspire you.
Overall, it seems like, this line is just, like you were saying, the changes they've made are subtle but really impactful when you actually pick it up and
Absolutely.
feel it.
I would, anybody who likes any of these instruments, I would really, really, really feel comfortable saying, you got to put your hand on one of these. They're amazing.
Yeah.
And you will notice a difference, and it won't be a notice a difference because it's radical something. You'll just notice how immediately playable it is, at least for me.
They all just feel more comfortable straight out of the
They
gate.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that a regular Fender wouldn't, but these are a little bit more refined in every little way that makes it just feel more at home with any of them they grab. That's what I noticed.
Right.
Hey guys, wouldn't it be cool if we were in the key of G?
Yeah.
Like, maybe G major and played a little jam?
G major,
Just
you brought it.
don't buzz me.
I'm noticing we have 4 guitars and 4 amps.
That's true. What could we do?
What could happen?
I'm just
here?
waiting for someone to jump out of this.
Oh,
Just keep waiting for.
Brandon's been in here the whole time.
Yeah, except that we locked the butterfly latches, so he's not of any use at this point.